Good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing on this wonderful, beautiful beach day? That was supposed to be funny. Can y'all hear me okay? Yes? All right, we're going to get started here real quick. So if everybody wants to get some more coffee or a cookie or before we get started, I think we're good. So I want to welcome you all to Coffee and Conversation. Coffee and Conversation is brought to you by the Government Affairs Committee of the South Padre Island Chamber of Commerce. This is one of the many benefits that you get as being a member of the Chamber of Commerce. We have many options of being a member. You don't just have to be a business. If you're visiting from afar and you'd like to participate in the Chamber, you can be an associate member. We'd be happy to talk to you about that. We do have some information at the check-in stand if you like that. And Coffee and Conversation is brought to our members and to our community to let the community know about the business and how business is driven to the island and drives economic development. So we're going to talk about a very important topic this morning that has been very popular, and we'll get to that in just a second. First of all, I want to thank a couple of people, of course, Padre Brewing for hosting us. I think we got them all here today. Mark, Jose, and Lori are all here. And also Karla Scimeca from Karla's Katering for providing the cookies. And then, of course, we have some dignitaries in the room. So let's go ahead and welcome them. Let's Council Member Lisa Graves. Council Member Reese Langston. Council Member Ken Meathers Jr. Did I miss anybody? I don't think so. And then, of course, we have several of our board members here today. We have Scott Alex. We have on our executive board Wendy Knight, the chair of Christie. Scott Alex is our treasurer. Jim Inholm, there in the back, works the check-in. And Jackie Dempsey is our past chair. So thank you all for being here. So let me also bring up, before we get started, about some other events that the Chamber has going on this month that you might be interested in. Tomorrow, we're going to be doing a drawing for the Queen of Hearts. If you haven't heard about the Queen of Hearts, come see us up at the Chamber Building at 4113 Padre Boulevard and check it out. It gives you a chance to win some cash. And next week, on Tuesday the 14th at the Convention Center, it's our annual member showcase. So if you haven't had a chance to attend this, it's a really great event. It's free. And we have over 60 members that are going to participate in showing you and telling you a little bit about their businesses. There'll be samples, there'll be food, drinks, so come on down and have a good time. The 16th, we're going to be hosting a ribbon cutting for Artsy Gallery and Goods. If you're not familiar with them, they used to be over in Port Isabel, but now they're up north. So we're going to celebrate that at 5:30. And then we have our 12 at 12, which is another benefit for our members. It is a chance for you to learn from us how to get the most out of your membership benefits. It's very important, and it fills up all the time. We have, in fact, 3 seats left for that next event. That starts at 11:30. And then we have one more ribbon cutting on the 23rd, and that's for Isla Bella Salon at 1800 Padre Boulevard. That starts at 5:30. One more thing to mention. Anybody heard of the coupon books? Yes? That's all I get for the coupon books? And you're just storming the castle trying to get them? Well, we have them at the chamber office if you'd like to grab some of those. They're very valuable. We have lots of other things going on, and if you'd like to learn more, you can always go to our website, sbichamber.com. Now, the moment you all have been waiting for. Today's presentation is being brought to you by NextDecade. And with us today we have Tom Wainwright, NextDecade Senior Director of Operations, and Andrea Benton, Head of Community Relations. Andrea is also on the board of the Chamber. So we're excited to hear what they have going on. It's a very big project, and I know you all have lots of questions. Please remember that this is a Chamber event, and it is here for the purpose of you all understanding how their company is driving economic success here on the island. All right, so welcome.
Thank you, Janet, and thank you for the opportunity to share information about Rio Grande LNG. As Janet said, Figueroa Benton, Head of Community Relations for NextDecade. I've been with NextDecade for almost 3 years. I'm from Brownsville, and I worked in Brownsville in different capacities in the hospitality industry, and as well over 5 years for the Brownsville Chamber of Commerce. So it's very special to me to always be a part of chamber events, whether it be here or in Brownsville, Port Isabel, Harlingen, and all over the Rio Grande Valley. So, like I said, NextDecade, I've known of NextDecade since 2015, when the public hearings began in our community, and I never imagined that I would be working for this company. So I'm very proud to be a part of this project, and at this time I'd like for Tom to introduce himself, and then we'll begin the presentation.
I'm Tom Wainwright, Senior Director of Operations for NextDecade. Once the Bechtel finishes the construction of the facility and hands it over to us for operation, I'll be in charge of the group that will actually operate the facility, along with the marine team that will manage the ship traffic in and out of the facility. So almost 50% of the on-site staff will report under one of my groups. So I came here about 2.5 years ago to NextDecade to help with the staffing and set up policies, procedures, those kind of things that we're still in progress with. I came here from another LNG facility. I was there for commissioning, startup, and normal operation of that facility as well. So, thank you.
And you're now a Harlingen resident.
And I'm now a Harlingen resident. I bought a house in Harlingen about a year ago.
So let's begin the presentation. Katering, next slide. I'll make you read through all of this.
It's too tiny.
So before I start, I want to ask you, who here knows what LNG is? Okay, so we do have quite a few that know what LNG is. That's good, but I still see some hands down. So we're going to start with a video that explains what LNG is. That way you can get to know more about the properties of LNG.
You ever thought about how your home is powered or heated? For many, it starts with natural gas, which is a natural reoccurring Whoa. Hold on. Did you understand any of that? Me neither. So let's back it up and start over. Okay, we have gas, and we have liquid. But when exactly does natural gas become liquefied natural gas? Did you know that you can cool down a gas so much that it actually turns into a liquid? LNG is when natural gas is cooled down hundreds of degrees below 0 Fahrenheit, becoming a liquid version itself. This process is called liquefaction. First, the gas runs through purifying equipment at the Rio Grande LNG facility, which removes impurities that would freeze or damage equipment if not removed, until all that's left is natural gas. It all starts with extracting the natural gas from wells, separating the gas from liquids, and routing the gas through an underground pipeline to the liquefaction facility. There, the pre-treatment processes remove molecules like water, carbon dioxide, heavy hydrocarbons, mercury compounds, and other impurities that should not be in the final LNG product. Now that we've got those molecules out of the way, the remaining gas is cooled to an even chillier temperature of minus 260 degrees Fahrenheit, or about minus 160 degrees Celsius. That's colder than the coldest part of the moon. At this point, the treated gas turns into a liquid and is transported into special holding tanks that are then used to load the LNG onto specially designed state-of-the-art ships. Liquefied natural gas is colorless, odorless, non-toxic, non-flammable, and non-corrosive. What makes liquefying natural gas efficient? When you turn it into liquid, the volume is 600 times less than aqueous gas. This is like shrinking a beach ball to the size of a ping pong ball. Picture this. If it was in gas form in these tanks, it would take up to 600 additional ships to ship gas in vapor form instead of a single ship. Some of these ships are large enough to carry enough LNG to provide power and heat to 70,000 homes for a full year. Not only that, but the ship is also able to power itself. Some of the gas that boils off the LNG as it warms on a ship is routed into the ship's engine, helping to power the ship throughout its journey. Sometimes the gas that boils off is re-liquefied on the ship and placed back in the ship's tanks. Now that's efficient, clean natural gas. Once the ships reach the receiving terminal, the LNG is unloaded into the tanks and warmed to regasify,
which means it is turned back into natural gas. It's then routed through pipelines to meet energy demands, powering homes, businesses, and more around the globe, offering customers a cleaner fuel compared to other hydrocarbon fuel sources, such as coal. Today, the United States has become the largest exporter in the world, providing LNG to over 35 countries since 2016. Next time you warm yourself by a gas fireplace or with a gas furnace, flip on the lights, use an electric appliance to make a snack, or even charge your phone. Ask yourself, was this powered by natural gas?
Thank you, Gabby.
Have you?
I'll show another video where you will see a simulation of an LNG vessel going in and out of the ship shuttle. Sorry. And let's go ahead and play that.
The Rio Grande Valley will play an important role in providing lower carbon-intensive energy to the world. NextDecade's Rio Grande LNG is a liquefied natural gas export terminal near Brownsville, Texas. Our team has significant experience developing, building, and operating projects safely and successfully around the world. This video will demonstrate a typical LNG vessel's movement in the Brownsville ship channel and provide information regarding the Rio Grande LNG project. An LNG vessel is roughly the same length as a typical tanker vessel. The vessel arrives empty and will approach the terminal from the Gulf of Mexico, entering at the Brazos-Santiago Pass. When the LNG vessel is roughly 1.5 miles outside the entrance to the Brownsville ship channel, it will be met and boarded by an experienced shipping pilot from the Brazos-Santiago pilots. The pilot provides expert local navigation advice as the vessel travels in the channel. 2 tugs will also meet the LNG vessel to assist in escorting the vessel safely to the Rio Grande LNG terminal. The Brazos-Santiago pilots and tug captains participate in virtual LNG vessel simulations to get experience in safely piloting LNG vessels to NextDecade's Rio Grande LNG terminal. NextDecade will continue to use this simulator to train future pilots and tug captains. The forward and aft tugs attach by rope to the LNG vessel prior to reaching the outer jetties at the entrance of the channel. LNG vessels require 2 tugs to escort them through the ship channel. These tugs, which assist LNG vessels with safely maneuvering the channel, are contracted exclusively to NextDecade and are designed to operate with LNG vessels in the Brownsville ship channel. The current speed limit for any vessel in the Brownsville ship channel is 8 knots. LNG vessels will travel at a speed of between 6 and 7 knots, or about 8 miles per hour. When it comes to MV class vessels in the Brownsville ship channel, there will be no changes to the existing practice. No two-way traffic is allowed for MV class vessels in the channel. When an LNG vessel is in the channel, deep draft traffic, vessels requiring the depth of the dredged channel, will be restricted to whichever direction that vessel is traveling. The same rule applies to the LNG vessel if another MV class vessel is already in the Brownsville ship channel. Vessels with a shallower draft that can operate outside the deepest part of the channel can, at the pilot's discretion, pass in either direction as long as they don't interfere with the safe navigation of the LNG vessel. Once the vessel arrives in the vicinity of the Rio Grande LNG terminal, it is met by an additional tug. The tugs help rotate the LNG vessel 180 degrees in the turning basin and position it alongside the berth to begin the LNG loading process. The Rio Grande LNG project will bring tremendous benefits to the communities across the Rio Grande Valley. During construction, the project is expected to create up to 5,000 jobs. The facility will employ about 300 permanent employees during operation. In addition, an estimated 3,000 indirect jobs are expected to be created as area restaurants, hotels, tourist attractions, and other local services benefit from the influx of employees and their families. As part of the Brazos Island Harbor Channel Improvement Project, we'll be deepening the existing channel and making other improvements that are strategically important to the port and economic growth in the Rio Grande Valley. Once the LNG vessel has been loaded, the pilot and 2 escort tugs will assist it back out of the Brownsville ship channel. As the LNG vessel safely exits the Brazos-Santiago Pass, the pilot disembarks, and the escort tugs return back to the Rio Grande LNG terminal. The LNG vessel begins its long journey to global ports to deliver the LNG cargo. For more information on NextDecade's Rio Grande LNG project, visit riograndelng.com and connect with us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter.
Thank you. So we'll go ahead and begin the presentation and save questions for the end. But before I continue with the presentation, I failed to mention that I have some of my other colleagues here with us. We have Monica Tella, who handles community relations for Bechtel. Bechtel is our engineering, procurement, and construction partner. Bechtel is the premier builder of LNG facilities around the world. They're an American company, and I always like to mention, like, they built the Hoover Dam and have other huge projects. So we're very proud to have them as a partner. We also have Alejandro Rodriguez, who handles communications, Gaby Ramirez, data analyst with us, and Karen Gutierrez, who handles community relations as well, but she just graduated from high school in Brownsville last year, started as an intern, and is currently studying in Texas Southmost College, but we kept her on board part-time because she's a great support to the team. So I wanted to mention that before. So we do have several commitments with the community, and we do consider our stakeholder reach a 100-mile radius from the site. That's because of the size of the project, and we can see this even with the people working at the site currently. We have people from all over the Rio Grande Valley. So that goes all the way to Raymondville, beyond McAllen, Mission, and Edinburgh. And so one of those commitments is to hire as many local people as possible. And when we started, we informed Bechtel that our commitment was 35% local content, and they said, we know we can do better than that. That's because they have projects throughout the Gulf Coast, other places in the world, and they know that a lot of those people come from the Rio Grande Valley. And so currently at the site, there's nearly 2,000 craft workers. More than 70% are local from the Rio Grande Valley. So that is huge. And I'll talk a little bit more about our local content in other slides. But we also have to mitigate impacts of wetlands, wildlife, collaborate with the local community, reduce visual impacts of the facility, CO2 reduction, and a significant investment in the Rio Grande Valley. So I'll touch on all those points in further slides. All right, so I talked about conservation. And so our footprint at the site, we are leasing land from the Port of Brownsville, over 900 acres. But our footprint for the terminal itself will be 761 acres. We have purchased wetlands, habitat lands, and also Las Lomas near the Port of Brownsville for a total of over 4,000 acres for conservation in perpetuity. And this is already done. We've already spent millions of dollars on those lands that will be conserved forever. And this is more than what's required of us from federal agencies. So we're very proud of that, to have the ability to secure those lands in perpetuity. Another thing that we did is just an example. We have a tortoise translocation project in collaboration with Texas A&M Kingsville, and because they have the Climate Wildlife Research Institute. So what we did is, before construction began, any Texas tortoise that was found at the site, Texas A&M Kingsville helped us collect those tortoises. They took them to a different habitat near the campus. And what they did, they studied them because they had never been studied. And what they figured out is that they're very social animals. They always try to meet each other. But an important thing that they wanted to know if they were going to try to come back to the Rio Grande Valley. But apparently they're very happy where they are. They tracked some of those and released them into the wild. And it's been a successful project. So there's also the horned lizard that the San Antonio Zoo has a breeding program. So the horned lizards were sent to the San Antonio Zoo. And really, in general, there's a no-kill policy, so even if there's like a tarantula or a snake, they just move to the side and work continues. That's just the way it works. Next slide, please. So we have a lot of engagement with our stakeholders in the Rio Grande Valley. We do have a community advisory board, and we have representation from South Padre Island. Randy Smith is a part of our community advisory board. We have members from all different sectors, NGOs, schools. Terry Capistran is also a part of our community advisory board. When we asked also Tracy Wickett, who was not retired when she started, but she stayed on board after retirement. And we value all sorts of expertise. And when we asked people to join our community advisory board, we told them, you don't have to support the project. That's not the purpose of the community advisory board. It's a channel of engagement with the community. We want the community to be up to speed with what the project, what's happening with the project, and also we want to know if there are any concerns from the community, any questions, so we can address those. We have over 33 members from all over the valley and have quarterly meetings. We also have a community feedback system, and you may have seen it through Chamber e-blast. We promote in newspapers, social media, and what it is that we want to know if there's any feedback from the community, good or bad. We want to address those questions. So there's 3 ways of communicating with us. We have a phone line where you can leave a voicemail. We have an email address, and also an online form on our website in English and in Spanish. And from this community feedback system, over 70% of the messages are from people asking about jobs or wanting to do business with us. We've also been really busy hosting open houses and LNG safety demonstrations. Since 2023, we've had over 26 sessions, information sessions, and from those, over 2,100 attendees in 2023 and 1,500 in 2024. We do plan to have other open houses in February this year, and we've been in different areas, TSC, TSTC, we go to schools, we've been at the Port Isabel High School, and so we try to reach all different ages and types of groups, especially the education community. Why students? Because we want students to know the type of industries coming to the community. We want them to get excited about careers in this industry and to know the different opportunities. Some students may be interested in a 2-year degree or a 4-year degree, and there's opportunities for all those types of jobs. I mean, with Bechtel, there are people with 2-year degrees that have a 6-figure salary and continue to move in those positions. We know they have people from South Padre Island working there. And so, it's great for us to share information about that, not just about the safety of LNG and what LNG is, but we have the open house portion entails having subject matter experts from our company that come from Houston and talk about operations, construction, safety, regulatory and conservation. Bechtel is there, HR, marine operations, and so that those students, depending on their interests, can talk one-on-one with our representatives. So we'll be sharing the information on the February 13th open house and the chamber as well, so that they can share the information. One special thing about this session on February 13th is that this is taking place in the Brownsville Event Center, and we will have a vendor information portion. We haven't had this before. So what we'll do is that we'll share information with the business community about how to apply to become a vendor with NextDecade. We'll share a list of the different services and products that we'll be needing. And so I think this is important since it's been one of the main questions received through our feedback system. We wanted to go ahead and do that. So some of the impact of our project so far, I already talked about the number of employees. Bechtel plans to grow up to 5,000 this year. So that will happen this year. They're already ramping up. And Right now it's over 70% local, but we do expect it to stay in a similar way. I don't think I mentioned it before, but the investment of this project for phase 1 is $18.4 billion. And that is phase 1. Phase 1 is trains 1 through 3, so it's 3 trains. And I'll talk a little bit about the trains, or Tom will, he's the expert in the technical aspect. But we're permitted for 5 trains. So doing those additional trains would be like an additional estimate of $10 billion. So it's it's a large investment that our area has never seen before, even our state and country. So it's important to mention that we're investing over $400 million in the deepening of the Port of Brownsville ship channel. That's already started. You may have seen the dredger there in the channel, and so what we're doing is we're doing from where the channel begins to the west end of our project, and then the Port of Brownsville and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is taking care of the other portion of the deepening up to the turning basin of the Port of Brownsville. So this will also signify a large economic boost for our area in terms of attracting other industry that will benefit from the deepening of the channel. Since 2023, which is when we began construction, we've invested over $500,000 in the communities, and that's along with Bechtel and Great Lakes Dredge and Dock, who is a company doing the dredging. And we're very proud of our engagement with the community. Whenever we support different events, we like to tell people we don't decide for the community, we like to ask for the community, what is it that you need? And it's good for us to be part of the community because we're already involved, we already know. But we want to know exactly what is it that the community needs and support those areas. So I already mentioned that a full build out, we will have 5 LNG trains, and that will signify about 400 or more permanent jobs. The annual salary for those types of positions is $100,000. So right there you can see that's like more than $40 million every year in the community. So I mentioned our local content performance. We do measure our local content in terms of supply chain, employment, community investment, and workers. So workers at the site. And this is not just NextDecade, but it includes Bechtel and Great Lakes Dredge and Dock. So we have our report up to Q3 of last year. We're currently working on closing out 2024, and we'll have that report soon. But since construction began in July, our local expenditure in the Rio Valley has been about $128 million with local suppliers. And our local content for workers as of Q3 2024, including NextDecade and Great Lakes, has been 69%. So we're well above our commitment of 35%, and we want to do, like I said, as many local people as possible. And so now I'll hand it over to Tom to talk about the rest of the...
So this gives a schedule of the EPC contract of Bechtel's build-out. Currently, the handover or substantial completion of Train 1 is expected toward the end of 2027. Now that is when Bechtel will actually turn it over to NextDecade. It will be in operation before that. We're expecting the first cargo to actually leave the facility in Q2 of 27. So there's a lot of work that has to be done from the time of the startup. There's a lot of temporary strainers and things like that put in place to catch debris. Those will have to be removed, and then Bechtel will work through any problems that have been found within the facility before it's handed over to us. And then as you'll see, Trains 2 and Train 3, they're scheduled to come online about 7 months apart. So by the time the first one's handed over, the second one will already be in the initial stages of operation, and then 7 months later, the expectation is that one will be turned over as well. Next slide. So this is an overview of the site itself. So I'm sure you all drove by Highway 48. So this is the main entrance of the facility coming in here. Phase 1 is only 2 tanks. The picture pictures you saw earlier showed 4 tanks, but that will be full build out of 5 trains. Current construction are these 2 tanks and the first 3 trains. The additional expansion, trains 4 and 5, will just continue on down from the same site. Currently, I'm sure if you drive by 48, you can see the steel structures going up. The pipe rack is pretty much complete. Train 1, that's the bulk of the steel you see over the levee. And then the pipe rack is actually going up to train 2 as well. You can see part of it from the highway as well. Eventually, you'll be able to see the top section of the tanks as those are under construction as well. Any questions about this slide before I go on? I mean, there's a lot of information here, but I can take the question.
Maybe you want to mention about the ground flares?
Sure. This area right here are ground flares. If you drive by someplace like Corpus Christi or Houston, you see the big chemical plants and refineries and things, you see the huge tall flare stacks burning up. We won't have any of those. Our flares are actually ground flares, so the runners are actually about 2 feet off the ground. They burn inside a heat shield around it. It's very clean burning. There's no smoke, there's no real emissions from it because it's natural gas. It's not chemicals, it's not oil, it's just natural gas. But none of that will be visible because they're not flare stacks that are going on the ground. Most LNG facilities are going this route now because they're easier to maintain and they're less of a public nuisance to be seen from other areas. Okay. So one of the major focuses with LNG plants is emergency prevention and response. I had a presentation and had a discussion with Cameron County Emergency Management reviewing our fire protection system and recommendations for purchase of fire trucks for use on site. One of the comments they made in that presentation is they've never seen a facility with this much fire protection installed on site. The number of fire hydrants, the number of deluge systems, fire extinguishers, things. They've never seen a site to be that extensive. And our whole goal with emergency response prevention is we don't want an event to ever affect the community. So these systems are built to contain them when they're very small, just like you have a fire extinguisher in your house, right? If you put that fire out, the fire extinguisher, you don't need to call the fire department. That's the goal of this, is we control anything that were to happen, which we're not expecting any events, but if it were to happen, we're controlling it at the very early stages so it does not escalate and become a hazard to anyone off-site or even to our own employees. So just as an overview, there's over 150 fire hydrants within the facility. If you think about the size of South Padre Island, for example, if you go through and count them, you're probably not going to see much more than that in the entire area. But we'll have that many on site. There's an NFPA requirement that they can only be a certain distance apart, and we're meeting those standards. There's 245 gas detectors, 300 flame detectors. There's spill detection. So LNG spill detection, because this is very cold liquid. If we were to have a spill, it would trigger an alarm that there's a very cold substance there that would indicate that we have a leak. There's deluge systems throughout the system, throughout the plant. Some of those have foam systems already installed that will automatically discharge the foam on automatic detection. There's 4 fire pumps installed, 2 freshwater pumps that will pump from a storage tank on site, and then there's 2 additional pumps that will pump seawater directly from the Brownsville ship channel. So if we were to have an event, there is an unlimited supply of water available. There's containment systems throughout the facility, so anything that were to be discharged on site goes into a containment. There's no ability for any spill on site to make it to the ship channel without going through a containment. All those containments are inspected and tested before anything's discharged. Even stormwater on site, you know, if you were to run the water hose across the engine in your car, it'll pick up some oil residue, right? So even the equipment in the plant that's subjected to rains and storms in the facility as that runs off into the containment, before that's ever discharged, it's inspected and tested before it's allowed to leave the site to verify it's not contaminated. There's fire extinguishers installed throughout the facility that meet the NFPA 10 requirements. We're purchasing 4 tugs that are under construction right now. All 4 of those tugs have firefighting capability. If they're not being used for an LNG ship, those will be available to support Cameron County Emergency Management. If they were to need that capability somewhere else in the channel, they can be used for that as well. don't know if you've seen a video of a firefighting capable tug, but they can move a lot of water very fast. And these will be a little bit larger than any of the tugs you see in the port right now. Not much larger, but they are a little bit larger. We're in the process of purchasing 3 fire trucks for the site. One is a mini pumper, similar to what's in this picture. We're also purchasing a fast attack truck, which is basically a truck with a foam tank in the back that would have to be hooked up to a fire hydrant. And then a command vehicle that would support if any off-site response needed to come in, we can display information for them and connect it to our systems. The whole point of these trucks, the entire facility has enough installed fire protection. The expectation is these trucks would never be used for that purpose. It would be used for a tanker truck coming in on site, or a car fire, or a brush fire near the facility. Those kind of things is really what these would end up being used for, if they're ever used at all, which hopefully they're not. Next one. So I believe this picture is from October of last year. So this is changing daily. Monica could probably give a little more insight into that, but if you took another picture a week from today, it would look a lot different than the picture that you were to take today. So as you can see, there's multiple cranes on site throughout the facility. These 2 areas here are the first 2 tanks that are under construction. So the 4 of those tanks are already complete. The vertical walls are under construction right now. There's more of the pipe rack built. This is the pipe rack for train 1, and then the one for train 2. Those are the steel structures you see from Highway 48. The administration, current temporary offices are all on here, but the permanent office building, central control room, warehouses, workshop will all be built in this area here. And these are the 2 jetties here. You can see your part of the structure for the docking for the vessels is under construction as well. Okay. Any questions?
So can I ask, you mentioned we're thrilled to see that you're overperforming as far as your deployment of local, but bringing in people from other areas, in your opinion, what are they looking to see from support in the first maybe 30 or 60 days from the local business community, where we can attract those people to our chamber business owners here? What do they need in support when they're relocating or setting up booths here in our community?
Well, I mean, like as you can think, some of them have families, some of them, are, single. So, all sorts of services from like food, hospitality, moving, and, any kind of service that you can think of that, any visitor would need, they are going to be needing. And so just from our colleagues that visit frequently for business, they rent vehicles, they visit South. Some of them, even though they're coming for business, they stay at the island because they rather stay here than anywhere else. Why not, right? Since you're already here. And so, restaurants, maybe, they'll be looking for a variety of different food options or, services for their children. Schools, they're always looking at the different school options. So, those are just things that come to mind. Monica, I don't know if you had any feedback from the Bechtel folks there.
Sure. Aside from the obvious, I'll say some of the things that we hear are like extended type of daycare, early morning, late afternoon. I hear car rental are sometimes an issue. But for those that are coming for the first 30, 60, 90 days, a lot of them are staying in a temporary housing at a hotel or something like that, just as they start to figure out what kind of neighborhood they want to live in, what kind of home, apartment, or RV that they're looking for. So that's really what we see at the beginning when people start to relocate. As I mentioned, everybody's different. We have people who are single, who are looking for maybe a little bit more nightlife
websites, which we can share with the chamber to make it available for everybody. You know, that's something that we have available. Both of us, we do keep an inventory of the different real estate contacts, not the actual contact because it changes so much. And a lot of our folks just look on their own. So, you know, we don't really tell them like, oh, go here. You know, it depends. You know, there may be different cases. But I think it would be good for you to at least sign up on our vendor information website. That way we have your information readily available, and you know, just keep promoting. I mean, they look in the same ways that someone here locally would.
I think we have another one there.
Yes, sir.
What's the turnaround time for loading a ship for the liquid natural gas? And then how many ships a day are you expecting?
So right now, with phase one, once all 3 trains are in service, we'll produce enough liquid about every 36 hours for a ship. The ship schedule likely would be you'd have a ship today, one tomorrow, you'd skip a day, and then you would load 2 ships again. But not expecting more than 1 ship a day with the current phase. We don't have enough storage capacity for that, so there would be no reason to bring in more than 1 ship a day within the full load. I mentioned the tanks that are there. Those tanks, roughly 1 full tank would fill 1 ship. But to be able to load them at full rate, and I'll get to your question about the timing in a second, to be able to load them at full rate, we have to pump out both tanks simultaneously to meet our loading schedules. So typically, you're going to pull each tank down 50%. So, and obviously, we don't want them completely full or completely empty ever. So because of that, we would not load more than 1 ship a day. We're not expecting to. Now, with future build out with additional trains, that could happen, that we load more than 1 ship a day, but likely they would be 12 to 18 hours apart transiting the ship channel. The ships will be inbound from the time the pilot's picked up until the ship is docked and ready to connect. It will take about 2.5 hours. And then it takes about 1.5 hours for the release, and on the way out, it takes longer coming in because we have to turn the vessel and get it alongside the dock. It only takes about 12 to 14 hours to actually transfer the liquid. So typically these ships will only be alongside the dock for less than 24 hours. Now in the early times there's restrictions, and this has been the case for all LNG ports. The pilots and the Coast Guard limit the transits to daylight hours until the pilots get more experience bringing these ships in and get accustomed, and then they would eventually transit to doing nighttime sailings. Pilots here are very interested in getting to nighttime sailings because the weather conditions are better, there's less wind at night, and also there's less fishing boats and things like that at night, so it'd be less disruptive to the local community to bring them in and out at night. But we need Coast Guard approval to transition to nighttime sailings. Did I answer all your questions?
Yes, sir.
Hey, Tom, could you talk a little bit more about how the tanker traffic could impact recreational boat traffic in the channel?
It should have no impact at all on recreational boats because small boats, fishing boats, can transit the channel on either side of the vessel. It should be no impact at all, and as it showed in the video, the only impact will be to large commercial vessels, deep draft vessels, because they cannot pass in the channel, so that has to be coordinated better. As far as recreational use and fishermen, should be no impact whatsoever. There will be some expectation those vessels stay clear of the large ship, but it's not that you can't pass one way or the other, but that's all up to the pilot's discretion, which they currently do the same thing for the large ships coming into the channel now. This won't be any different.
What's the root source of your natural gas?
The majority of the gas is all coming within Texas. Some of it's coming from the Permian Basin and some from the Eagle Ford Shale. So it's all from within the state of Texas. There's an existing pipeline that will supply a small percentage of the gas that already runs past the terminal. There is a new pipeline being built that will come from just outside of Kingsville that will be built from there down to the facility for the additional gas supply. And there's a hub there, Aqua Dulce hub. is where we're tying in, and that hub actually has multiple gas supply sources coming into that hub.
Where will most of the exports go to?
So we have some going to Europe and Asia. We have French, Portuguese partners, and we also have a Japanese partner, Chinese, but the large volume of LNG is going to our European allies.
So is the natural gas that you get, does that come direct from the well, or has it been processed in some ways?
It'll be processed. Most of the wells, especially the ones that were frac wells, have all been processed at a midstream plant. The gas that comes to the facility would be the same natural gas you would use in your house. It's already that clean. We do have filtration on the inlet of the plant that removes trace amounts of impurities that would freeze in the liquefaction process. It's safe to still be in the gas going to your home, but it would freeze in our process, so those have to be removed. But they're very small trace amounts, but it's the same quality gas you would use in your house.
I noticed you scrapped the plans for the CO2 capture. What will happen to that gas then?
Well, the carbon capture is really intended to capture the emissions off the gas turbines, similar to what you would do at a power plant or something like that. That is a separate project from the LNG facility, even though it is the NextDecade project. It's not been totally scrapped. The permit was withdrawn because it was not fully developed enough to satisfy everything FERC needed for data to evaluate the project. So it was withdrawn until that can be further developed. It's not been completely scrapped. We still have a team working on it.
Do you have a timeline for resolution?
I do not.
Not at the moment, but it is, our company is spending millions of dollars in that area of the project, so we do expect it's something that is moving along. But like Tom said, it's just not at the stage where it's fully developed enough for us to apply for the permitting.
Yes, sir.
The 5,000 jobs that you have slated for the construction phase, are those 5,000 people employed right now? And will they continue to be employed until they're last trained in 29? And then also, can we talk a little bit about the 400 permanent jobs, when they will be coming on board?
What type of that?
So, sure. So the 5,000 jobs that Bechtel is expecting, the peak is this year, so it's a bell curve. So we started, at the end of the year, we have nearly 2,000, it's gonna go up to 5,000, and then we'll slowly go down. But of course, we still have the second phase of the project, so, that will continue construction will continue for many years. I see that point goes back out. So for the types of jobs, a lot of those jobs are craft positions, and but for NextDecade, like you asked as well, we have about 400 jobs, and that's maintenance and operations. And Tom can talk a little bit more about those positions and when those are expected.
So for my group with the operations team, we'll bring in a lot of people from outside the area that have the LNG expertise to be able to safely start up the facility and get it in operation. Our plan is to hire the lower level positions, as many of those locally as we can. Our training department is also working with the local community colleges to develop training programs, and long term, most of the experienced operators that start up LNG plants, they don't typically operate them long term. They'll be here to get them up and running. And my plan with my group especially is during that time frame to use local employment and get them into the facility from either the technical programs or the college programs that our training department is working on, get them into the plant, and they will backfill and move up to replace those people that we brought in from externally as they leave or retire or whatever it may be. We have a lot of the people that have came in that are within a few years of retirement, so they'll be moving on anyway. But our long-term goal is we will backfill all those positions with local employees.
on how construction goes. We hire every single day as it is now, but that big push will begin in April and May. And for anybody wondering, our biggest number for our skilled craft are going to be pipe fitters and welders. Of course, we'll hire a good number of carpenters, electricians, plumbers, you name it, but the big numbers are pipe fitters and welders.
One thing I'll add, I think you asked about the type of jobs and the permanent jobs. So we have an entire engineering team. So there's operates from a central control system, process engineers, chemical engineers. So there's a wide variety there of the types of jobs available within the facility. So it's pretty wide ranging and encompasses a lot of different areas.
So you talked a bit about buying fire trucks. So will you have a feminine fire team as well?
We're still looking at how we're actually going to staff that. The original plan was the on-site operations team will be trained as the original fire brigade team, and we'll ensure we staff enough to be able to support that. We're also evaluating the possibility of hiring a third-party contractor to just supply that service for us using our equipment. That decision hasn't really been made yet. We're looking at both options to figure out what makes the most sense to do that. And as you know, really our team is trained for the initial event and prevent escalation. If we have something that escalates, we're going to rely on the fire department to respond, and we're just going to try to control it so they're around on site and support them. We don't expect to ever get to that point with an event on site, but we're planning for worst case, what if is what we're planning for. We have many meetings with Cameron County Emergency Management, the local fire departments, along with FERC and PHMSA, meeting their requirements as well. So there's a lot of discussions around that. The regulatory requirements are we have to be prepared for the worst case scenario and be equipped to handle it.
Any other questions?
Yes, gentlemen.
In addition to the property tax that you pay to the local communities, do you pay a percentage of the natural gas that goes through your facility?
So in terms of, we do have a tax abatement with Cameron County, not for the gas, this is just
Right.
we are paying payments in lieu of taxes. Sometimes people think that tax abatement means no taxes. No, yes, we are paying millions of dollars in taxes, and we could share more information with you if you're interested. If you give me your card, I can share more details in that aspect.
Thank you all so very much for joining us today, and thank all of you for It was very interesting information to know the impact that this LNG project is having on our economy here locally. So thank you all for that information. Just before you go, I want to let you know that we will be having 2 coffee and conversations next month. In February, on February 13th, our Special Projects Ad Hoc Committee Chairman Barry Bechtel will be reviewing the projects identified by the committee and answering questions and providing direction. And then on February 27th, we have our annual spring break to know what's going to go, what our departments and city is doing to prepare for the onslaught of visitors during the spring break season. So I hope you all, if you're still here, you can come and join us for those 2 very special projects or very special presentations. And if there aren't any more questions, then we'll let you guys go and have a wonderful, bright, shiny, sunshine day.